Okay, Unit 6. That's not correct. This is Unit 4. Oops, sorry guys. Just ignore that. We're on Unit 4, Congress. I hope the midterm went well. If you have not taken the midterm, please make sure that you do that at some point today. If you need to take that on Friday, shoot me an email so that way I know what's going on. For those of you that are in the play this weekend, good luck. I'm sure it's going to be a great experience for everyone. Okay, so beginning just with the review, we talked about this at the beginning of the year, the structure of Congress. This slide, again, is just going over that stuff that we mentioned with the constitutional scavenger hunt. So a House rep must be 25 years old, 7 years a citizen of the United States. It's a 2-year term, citizen of the state that is represented. Again, that's kind of a goofy thing because they don't necessarily have to live within the district they represent, only the state. There are no term limits. The original number was set at 65 in 1911, and the size was limited to 435 in 1911. So sorry, a little confusing. The original number was 65, changed in 1911 to 435. It's reapportioned every 10 years due to the census. And remember, when they are reapportioned, that is done by the state legislature. As for the Senate, 30 years old, 9 years a U.S. citizen. It is a 6-year term, citizen of the state that you represent. No term limits, 2 senators per state. And remember that originally senators were chosen by state legislatures, and that would change with the 17th Amendment. The Senate is sometimes considered the upper house. It's definitely the more powerful house. We say that because it has a 6-year term, and there are just less of them. Being one of 100 versus one of 435, you have a greater advantage. This slide reviews the powers from Article 1, Section 8. These, again, are our enumerated powers. We have 3 types of powers that we discussed in this class: enumerated, concurrent, and reserved. Enumerated powers, again, are specifically granted in the Constitution to the federal government, in this case, the legislative branch. I'm not going to go through and read off every one of these, but again, these are coming back to what we start off the beginning of the year with. Again, another review slide. Constitutional powers through the elastic clause, also known as the necessary and proper clause. Allowed government to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into the execution its foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States. We talked about this in relevance to McCulloch v. Maryland with the creation of the National Bank using the Elastic Clause and the Commerce Clause. At this point, it might be a good idea to pause this. You can come back to it and go check out actually McCulloch v. Maryland. Google it, quickly read through it so you can refresh your memory. You could also go back to the PowerPoint slide within the Federalism unit. Exclusive powers given just to the House, revenue powers, and impeachment. For revenue bills, all revenue bills must originate in the House, although it's still around today, has become blurred over the years. Often budget bills are considered simultaneously in both houses, and tax policies become a major initiative of the president. But do know this, for the sake of the AP exam, this is a unique power just to the House. And it's given solely to the House because the House is, again, the most democratic. It has to answer most closely to the people because there's 435 of them. Most likely that's your closest tie to government, and also because it's a 2-year term that they can be replaced more often. So they gave these powers, specifically this revenue or tax power, to the House because it answered most closely to the people. The second one is the impeachment power. We talked about in the beginning that impeachment was kind of a 2-part process. First, you were impeached, which just means charges were brought against you. And then the second part was the trial part, and that's what happens with the Senate. So it's kind of like the House is the police officer arresting you, and the Senate is the judge carrying out the trial. Now looking at the Senate, exclusive powers given just to the Senate, and again, this is review hopefully. Major presidential appointments must be confirmed by the Senate. The Senate offers advice and consent, that's how it's stated in the Constitution, to the President by a majority vote regarding the appointment of federal judges, ambassadors, and cabinet-level positions. So all those appointments the President makes for cabinet levels, judges, ambassadors, All must be approved with a majority vote. And again, think back to when we mentioned the filibuster last week. This would be another great opportunity to pause this PowerPoint. Google filibuster in Senate. You'll find that there was one last week, and it all took place because of an appointment for one of these. It wasn't a cabinet level. It was the, I want to say, the FBI or the CIA, one of these key level positions, but they filibustered to try to prevent the appointment. It would also be good at this point to quickly review what a filibuster is and what a vote of cloture is. C-L-O-T-U-R-E. It's a way to end a filibuster, but it might be a good moment right now to quickly give it a Google search, read through the summary on Wikipedia, or flip open your textbook and take a look there. The Senate also approves treaties with other nations, and these must be confirmed with a 2/3 vote. So in both of these, the President is involved with the first part. The Senate carries out the check and balance. With appointments, it's a majority. The check and balance with treaties is a 2/3 vote. Evolutionary powers, okay, and these come out of the Elastic Clause. Oversight of the budget. Congress reviews and restricts the annual budget prepared by the executive branch. Although the House is involved with revenue bills and taxation bills, the budget, so the year-to-year operating expenses, are originally designed by the President or the executive branch. And it's done through the Office of the Management and Budget. So the OMB is the acronym we give it. You'll read more about that in the executive branch. So the President will design it, but Congress must authorize the budget. So they're the ones that give it final approval. One of the biggest checks and balances that Congress has is they have the power of the purse. So this is what it's getting at that. Although they may not design the budget piece by piece, in the end they authorize it, can change any aspect of it. So authorization and appropriations are words that deal with this that'll make more sense when you get through your reading. They also have the investigation power. Congress may investigate both issues that warrant study and wrongdoings by public officials. So they may decide that they're going to research the effects of tobacco. So it may be a health thing that they're studying, or perhaps school safety or airplane safety. But they can also do investigation for corruption or issues with public officials. So examples of the second half would be Watergate or the more recent Clinton issues. Congressional leadership. So up to this point, we kind of went through just a review of some basic setup and some key powers that both had. This slide gives you a perspective of who actually holds major leadership positions. Now, you don't need to know the names for the people that actually do these. You don't need to necessarily remember who Harry Reid is or Dick Durbin, but you do need to know the position. So the Speaker of the House, Majority Leader, Majority Whip, Minority Whip, and so on all the way through. You need to know what each one of those positions does. So this would be a great opportunity for you to pause right now, open your textbook, or perhaps go through and Google each one of these positions and do some notes on your own. Try to figure out what the role of each one of these positions is, so that way when you get to the next slides, you already have a background on your own. So again, a great opportunity here to pause, do some investigation on your own before you continue on with the slides. Hopefully this is still going okay. I'm sitting here talking to a computer, which is kind of weird, so hopefully this is interesting to you all and you're not bored of my voice yet. Continuing on, the Speaker of the House. This is the most important leadership position in the House for sure. They control the majority of the power. They have, I wouldn't say necessarily tons of constitutional powers, but today a significant amount of power behind what happens. The position is provided for in the Constitution. The House shall choose their Speaker and other officers. So it is worth noting that they do have an official notation within the Constitution. Today they're chosen by the majority party. So the majority party chooses who they want to be the Speaker of the House. Around the turn of the century, the Speaker was all-powerful. A revolt by membership in 1910 gave some of the Speaker's powers to committees. But today the Speaker still has the following powers. So they recognize members who wish to speak, ruling on questions of parliamentary procedure, appointing members to select and conference committees. And again, those types of committees may not make sense to you yet, but hopefully, again, when you get into your reading tomorrow, you can come back to this. Directing business on the floor, exercising political and behind-the-scenes influence, appointing members of the committees who appoint members to standing committees. I know that one sounds a little bit confusing. So they get to help choose the people that will sit on the committee that then assign all new members to their committees. So while they don't necessarily get to choose person by person, they get to choose who sits on a committee for assignments. And the House and the Senate do these both a little bit different. I'll talk more about that when I'm back in class. They exercise substantial control over which bills get assigned to which committees too. And again, I'll come back to this stuff in class. I think this is harder for me to explain through a computerized voice PowerPoint thing, but I will come back to this later on. Here, going through some of these different positions: majority leader, minority leader, and party whips. The majority leader, often a stepping stone to the speaker position within the House, responsible for scheduling bills and rounding up votes for bills that the party favors. So they're like the second in command. They're kind of like what you might say is the assistant principal within the school. They do a lot of the legwork in getting things done. Minority leader, again, is the most powerful person within the minority party. Spokesperson for the minority party usually steps in position of speaker when, if or his or her party gains majority. So before, John Boehner, who's our current Speaker of the House, was the minority leader. So when his party gained the majority within the House, he then gets to assume that key position. Nancy Pelosi used to be the Speaker of the House when the Democrats had control, and when the Democrats lost control of the Republicans, she is now the minority leader. Party whips serve as the go-between for the members and the leadership. They inform members when important bills will come up for a vote, do head counts, and pressure members to support the leadership. So they kind of whip the party into shape. They make sure that the members know what to vote for, and they really are in charge of gaining votes and ensuring that they have a vote count for whether bills will pass or if they won't pass. The Senate leadership, a little bit different structure here, and we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the year. The President of the Senate is officially the Vice President. They can vote only in the case of a tie and seldom attend Senate sessions. So the Vice President is not involved too much day to day, but they do have the tie-breaking vote if there is a tie. President pro tempore, again, another widely ceremonious position. They're elected from the majority party, largely ceremonial. They're officially the chair of the Senate, but since it has no real powers, the job of presiding over the Senate is usually given to a junior senator. So the idea behind the Senate pro temp is that they're pretty much sitting there running the Senate business day to day, but there isn't really much power with that position. It's mainly more procedural, kind of like a fancy secretary. So they give it off to a junior senator to let them gain some experience. These next two positions are where all the power is within the Senate: the majority and the minority leader and the whips. Majority leader is most influential, has the right to be the first senator heard on the floor. So whenever there's debate, they always are the first person to be heard if they'd like. And they also determine the Senate's agenda and usually help assign committees. Minority leader has as much power as the majority is willing to allow them to have. So sometimes they work closely together, sometimes they don't, but again, they are the minority, so they're there mainly just to represent their party. Whips, same as the House. That's where we're going to end for this. I know this is roughly about 15 minutes long. At this point, I want you to continue on through the rest of the slides, gain some understanding of that. Definitely go through right now and start to Google and just explore anything that doesn't make sense. You shouldn't be doing anything that's not government related. If at this point you feel like your best bet is to go ahead and start with Wilson, that's a great idea. Congress is a long chapter, and it makes up the majority, not the majority, but a good 20 to 30% of what you're going to see on the AP exam. It's Article 1 of the Constitution. The founders thought it was the most important, and I would agree with them. It's probably one of the most important things for your AP test. You should, in a moment, I'm going to email the vocab list to you, so by the time you're reading this, it's already in your email box. Vocab test will be on Tuesday. Your test will be next Thursday. Again, tomorrow you're going to be in class. It is a silent reading day, so please bring Wilson. Expect to see a reading quiz on Monday over Congress. Okay, I want to hold you accountable for this, and I'm going to do that through a reading quiz, so you need to make sure that you've done your reading. The rest of Monday, we'll make sure that we're lecturing, kind of reviewing the second half of this PowerPoint if there's any questions about it. Tuesday, we're going to do a vocab quiz. I'm going to probably talk for a little bit at the end. Wednesday we'll be reviewing any issues. Thursday we'll be testing. Okay, Friday is kind of our safety day. But you really do need to make sure you put in a significant amount of effort. I would study this weekend as if your test is on Monday. Okay, so put all of your effort in to make sure that you are ready so that when you come in on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're really just reviewing, asking questions, and ensuring that you've mastered the material. This is a great opportunity here for me to show me again kind of how hard you're working at the class and the effort that you're putting in on your side. So it's about 7:30ish. I'm just finishing this up. I will post this, so hopefully this all works, and I'm also going to email out a PDF copy. If you have any questions about anything, please send me an email. I'll be checking my email off and on throughout the day, and hopefully I can get back to you. So again, take your midterms if you haven't. I expect that to be done today, and good luck with those of you that are in the play since I won't see you. Have a good day.